And that, Luke, is the first time I've seen an A-26 take off in my life.
The A-26 Invader, a bomber and a light attack aircraft of the Second World War, first flight in 1942, and was built in a similar configuration to the combat-proven A-20 Havoc, which was designed to replace, that this aircraft was ultimately designed to replace.
So coming round from the right for what looks like it's going to be a nice topside pass. Yes, there comes the bank. That's lovely.
This was one among the fastest World War II bombers, maximum speed of about 680 kilometers an hour. And it had, in fact, no speed restriction while in level flight. It features a crew of 3, a pilot, a navigator, and a bombardier, as well as an optional gunner. And again, produces about 4,000 horsepower apiece thanks to those twin double Wasp radial engines.
The A-26 was used in the Pacific, mainly to target Japanese forces in Indonesia, although the squadrons in the Pacific generally weren't very keen on the A-26 and were much happier with the older A-20, which offered substantially better visibility due to the placement of the engines. But by the time the A-26 had been suitably modified for use in that theatre, to the approval of those crews there, the war was virtually over. It had rather better luck in Europe, where it was introduced to limited service in 1944 and performed well in its early missions, so it was then introduced more broadly. By the end of the conflict, A-26s had completed over 11,000 missions during the liberation of Europe, dropping some 18,000 tons of bombs. Not all of those missions were bombing raids, though. Invaders also found utility in reconnaissance and night interdiction roles. And I suppose that goes back to what we were talking about earlier with the Corsair. Multi-role aircraft is not a new concept. Well, the landing gear is now extended, but looking too fast for a landing, so I imagine this will be a dirty pass. The A-26 would see combat many times after the Second World War. It was used in Laos, Vietnam and Korea, but some of its most interesting deployments came not in the hands of the conventional military, but under the auspices of the Central Intelligence Agency, who flew A-26s as part of a covert air force in Laos, but also in a fascinating failed attempt to invade the island of Cuba in 1961. And you mentioned the Mustang, the A-26 being able to outrun it. We're going to see a Mustang fairly shortly, in around about 35 minutes from now. Flown by George Raab, who we saw in the Corsair earlier on, and that's P-51D Francis Dell. It's an interesting method of opening the cockpit canopy.